Okay, we'll call the
Yeah,
meeting
that-
back to order. And we have with us Steve, our road and bridge man.
I guess I was gonna start off with our solid waste. Here's the latest on the budget out there and expenditures. And I do have the three estimates on the door, on the overhead door. We did get three bids in on the overhead door replacement. Merkman Construction, there's all three of them right there, came in at the lowest.
Where's he at?
Sandy, I think, isn't he?
Got the address down there on the bottom.
He's from here.
Yeah, 315. West Spencer.
Came in, I think, at 7277. That's for the door opener and installation.
Do they have a, can you get it fairly quick?
I believe so. I wish I'd asked him that. I just talked to him a little bit ago, and he didn't give a timeline, but
I know Century Two had a couple put in the building over there, man, they just barely got him in. It was
took a
good 4 months, 3 months.
Yeah, the
in.
way it's going, you never know.
These are all basically the same door.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, size, insulated door with windows. All of them. As far as which brand of door, I think that one that came in on the lowest was the Midland door.
Do we want to make a motion on this now?
If you wanna replace it, yeah. I move we approve the Merkland construction bid for $7277.25.
Second it.
And first and second to approve the, who was that?
Merklands.
Merkland for a garage door for the landfill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Has he heard anything on the roof?
No, he didn't mention anything on the roof yet. Nothing on that. And I'll go ahead, and this is our expenditures and budget items for the road and bridge. And then activities are on the back of that sheet, so it's all in one. I think before we're giving it in two sheets.
Is this for that culvert for the underground burrowing?
With the DCS?
Is at the fairground, out there by the fairgrounds?
Yes,
which,
yes, it is.
Okay.
He was in, I sent a letter, he was in contact with me.
Okay.
They paid in full for the damages, and because he was so cooperative and apologetic, I decided that half of the fine would be sufficient, and they paid that in full.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Okay,
that matter is concluded.
thank you.
I knew they were in the wrong.
He didn't know that it existed, and he was so apologetic and willing to get it taken care of immediately.
And next item I want to bring up was something that came up just late last week, so I didn't have it on our agenda that I turned in Thursday. And that's, we have one of our road graders, one of the 140Hs, it's Unit 102, has about 8,900 hours on it. It had pinion gear go out on it here roughly a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And it's a job that we had to have sent down. We trucked it down to Foley at Colby. And we've got a couple of estimates back on the repairs, and there's pretty good range on it. At a minimum repair of the pinion issue, we're looking at $12,642. Yeah.
Here's some pictures of what happened if you guys want to look at it. The pinion bearing went out, the outer one, and of course damaged the pinion shaft and that, but that's the pictures they took, so I wanted to print them off so you can at least see what we're talking about. That's the cap on the front of the different, where the pinion goes in on the differential. It got warm.
That was making some noise.
And that one just shows you the pieces. All we've done is pulled the pinion gear out to assess what had happened at Foley.
All bearings.
Yeah, this is the bearings from the outer bearing that would have been set in there. So yes, I'm sure it was making quite a noise when they were
Any
running.
90 weight oil in it, or what caused?
30 weight oil.
30 weight was there in it?
Yeah, and I'm not sure what caused it. We talked a little bit about that on,
Looks like modern art to me.
Well,
You and me
same
both,
price.
Roger, you and me both.
Yeah, same price. I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe Foley should start selling their pictures as art.
What can happen with the pinion gears on the 140H, is my understanding, is it's a design with the pinion gear. They can end up running dry if the diff lock is not engaged.
Okay.
And you're running down the road, but I know we're operating this grader. I know the operator, he's engaging the diff lock when he's doing a good part of his work. And he does road, but, so there is oil getting up in there, and
yeah, you can see the line on that picture is where they're pushing oil to that.
I don't know if it's something over time where when he's roading and maybe not having it engaged, if that's enough over time to cause this. I guess, looking at maybe what happened, why it happened. But I'm a little perplexed because I know he does run the diff lock when he's operating that on a daily basis. So it is getting oiled on a daily basis. It's just when you turn it off and you go on the road, then it can, if you rode it for 25, 35 miles, that would be
Different.
a bad deal, but we're not doing that with our graders. We're not going that distance.
So they know not to run
Run them dry, right,
them dry.
yeah. And with that,
Let me explain this one
Yeah.
first, before you see the next one. It might
Go ahead.
scare them half to death. Just warning you. What I did on this one for him, he wanted some options, and this is essentially, if you look at the O2 segment on there, that is taking the pinion gear you see there with new bearings and the pieces that would need to be done, and put them in and run the ring gear, which at that option, there wouldn't be any warranty on that because there's no way we can guarantee we can get it set right. It may howl a little because we can't, if you bring a ring gear and pinion out, you can set it this way for backlash and then depth with your pinion. We can't set that. All we can do is set the pinion depth without pulling that out. But it's an option if you want to get by cheaper. The next two, when they had that up in the air, I just normally, when I see a grader in the air, I shake the tires just to see if the spindles are tight. Well, two of them are loose. The left front and the right rear. It was up in the air, and when I check a grader, it's just what I do. Because I've seen a few of them get loose. So that's why I put them on there, because if you're gonna go kind of a minimum type of a repair, I would say you'd wanna repair them before they would go out. And then it costs a lot more to repair them after that. So this is, other than where you see firm labor is all estimated, because we don't know till, like the spindles we get in, it might be more parts we may need or may not, don't know. The differential's gonna be pretty close. I'm just estimating because we don't have a standard job to do just that. Normally we pull the diff out and completely recondition it. So that gives you an idea. It seems like a lot for what we're doing, but the pinion is gotta be replaced because it ruined the shaft, minimum. And the spindles, that's, I guess, something you can decide too, but they're gonna keep getting looser. Just want you to be aware of it. So,
Do you have that much money in your budget?
Yes, we would be able to cover the repairs on that, the minimum.
Do you have another estimate with checking the actual differential to see how much damage is done by that, so we don't blow it out? down the
well,
road?
what we can see we've already looked in there, and what we can see, the screens didn't have really a lot of metal in them. So I'm guessing this bearing going out maybe might have been pretty quickly, or we'd have seen more metal in the screens, because I did see the screens, just a few flakes in
The
them.
gears,
The gear looks decent in there, it's got a wear pattern to it already from being matched with the pinion. That's what we're concerned about. Once you
Right.
put a new pinion in the ring gear, it changes your wear pattern. And it's one of them things, yes, it looks pretty good, but we can't get completely inside and look at it without pulling it out. And pulling it out is where it tends to get really pricey. I can explain that. That's why he asked me to come up and explain this, because there's a lot to go
how
into
many hours
this.
are on the 140H? Do you know?
It's just shy of 8,900 hours.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I just know that was on there. This would be a little more extensive repair.
Well, he can hand these out and let me explain them as we go down the list, because I put options on each segment. So, grab mine here. If you turn to the back, it's gonna scare you. I'm gonna tell you that right now. To get that differential out of that grader, we have to pull the transmission. There's not enough room to pull it out. If you see the picture, whether it was the burnt shaft, transmission sitting about this far behind it, that one. So that's gotta come out to be able to even pull it out. And before we can pull it out, we have to pull both tandems off. On this particular grader, you unbolt the tandems, pull them off, and then you can pull the differential out. So I put on there's a lot of labor to R&I the tranny. All right, that's just to move the transmission, put it back in, about 6,000. Of course, to pull the differential includes pulling them tandems off, like I said. And then reconditioning, because if we recondition it, we're gonna put a new ring gear and pinion in while we're there with all the new bearings and seals and whatever else. We check the spiders, all of that.
Do they have any remans available?
Of them?
Yeah.
I don't know if they do on them. A lot of times we just, we send them to our rebuild shop in Topeka and they go through. So, and then I left the 2 spindles on there at that point. Let me just explain the next ones. Because the next ones is, there's kind of a combo here, and I think I probably got a little extra actually, but if you got that all out, you're gonna run into hoses and that are gonna need replaced. You got filters, oil, all of that. And the back is if, while you have the transmission out, if you wanted to go through and rebearing and reseal it. We don't know it has a problem, but the concern I have is that we're putting $6,000 to pull it out and put it back in at that amount. I wanted you to be aware of that.
So how much more would that be?
Well, this is the standard job they have, is it like $12,500 to go through the tranny. That's essentially rebearing, resealing, which any hard parts would be extra, because we don't know what it's like.
$30,000 difference is what it's gonna be to do it right.
When you look at this bottom dollar, that's with all these options I added.
Right.
And I guess I want you to be aware, because that's a lot of money.
But the spindles, if a spindle breaks, it's gonna drop the tire, right? And the driver could lose control, so that's a must.
The one's really loose.
Right.
I definitely would do that one. I didn't catch the other one till the mechanic helped me wiggle it. And
But if you have this issue with this bearing, does
There's
that
all
make
the-
you question the others?
Yeah, it's, well, and see
Well,
what
I
happens.
think I'd like to walk through and just look at them for you. Do an inspection. I'd be happy to come and do an inspection on all your equipment here
So
in the
that
next
oil,
couple months.
that heavier weight oil will pick up those bearings, it'll send it through the gears, and that's why we was saying it was gonna howl. Because that gear turns so fast, if there's any indentions in it, that's where you get the
Right.
howl. But everything in there is gonna wear a lot faster. I mean, if you
Right.
just do the small repair, you're looking at probably
Excuse me.
500 hours.
Yeah, but if they're gonna have to split it,
Right, it's,
It's so labor intensive to get
Yeah,
that differential
exactly.
out. And
So-
what happens if you have a transmission go out? It's really easy to make the decision to go ahead and pull the tranny out, or the diff out, because you're already there.
You might as
But we
well
got
look
the
at it.
opposite approach here, where we got a diff problem and not a transmission necessarily that we know of.
right.
So it's so much labor to do that. And I didn't cover this other part at the bottom of rebearing, reseal final drives, because we're gonna have them off, at least looking at the final drives and that pivot where the tandem swivel is, consider doing that. And that wouldn't have to be done. I would definitely want to look at the final drives if we're that far.
With
And
the-
just look at them, not necessarily need to do anything, but make sure our thrust washers are good and that.
Right, 8,900 hours, I wouldn't, it's not an operator issue, the bearing could have just went out.
It could have, I don't,
So-
you know, it's a man-made item, so I can't.
What are your thoughts?
Ask me questions, that's why I decided to come with him.
I figured there was another sheet coming for a trade-in.
That's kind of wonderful.
That's an option,
That's what I was waiting on.
that's an option. I mean, Doug didn't come up,
8,000 hours.
Basically 9,000.
Are you not? Have you thought about it?
There, before this came up, I was hoping to come in here and schedule a meeting for the next meeting and have Mark and Doug both come in and talk about the certified rebuild. That could be, we could call it option 3, you know, for today. And I know what you're saying, do a trade-in on just a whole new or different unit. And we could call that option 4, but.
I just figured it was coming. I didn't.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's. Okay, I
oh, you're
understand.
thinking ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was.
But yeah, there's lots of different options. On the repair side, I want to make sure and provide you what we're seeing from the Foley side. Like I said, you guys had discussed maybe wanting to know more about the certified rebuild program, because your other 3 H's have between 11 and 12,000 hours. And them are actually perfect candidates for that, as long as they don't have something happen before you decide to do it. So,
Seems like we'd already talked about going through and rebuilding them. didn't we?
We had
Preliminary.
preliminary.
We just briefly
Discussions on
talked
it,
about
but-
it, and I bring some information. I'd be happy to leave it with you and come back and discuss it with you. Biggest problem with about any rebuild right now, we're April, May timeframe before we can even we got that many scheduled in already in our big shops.
How long would this one take to fix,
With a rebuild or just to fix it?
to fix it?
Depending which way you went, if you just did the simple fix, I'm gonna say a week. If you went to the bigger one, by the time we pull everything and ship it out, you're at least 2 weeks, maybe 3. Everybody's dealing with COVID and people not being at work and
Can
just-
you do without it for that length of time?
We generally operate with 8 or 9 graders and have one parked, so, but then takes away the,
Do you guys send
backup,
a
I
bore
guess.
scope in there, pull the axles and rotate the differential around, or can you do that? I'm thinking like an old 9-inch rear end. If you
we can turn the differential right now with the wheels in the
It
air.
wouldn't- then there wouldn't
And
be
we
a lot.
looked in, but we didn't take a bore scope, but we could. I'm actually gonna go back that way a little later here today.
Well, if we keep it, I think we need to fix it right. But if we look at trading it off, well, we've got two coming. Have we got both the new ones yet?
got the first
The
one.
other one's coming tomorrow.
Cool.
I'll be back up here tomorrow. Because we're gonna deliver it, I think, in the morning. Haven't heard a time.
I'm sorry, I don't know enough about this stuff. I guess I'm relying on the two of you. I really do, I mean,
Well, the simple fix could last you several thousand hours. I don't know, and it might not.
30 hours because there could be.
You don't, there's no way of knowing without being inside that differential.
Yeah, my thoughts, if we did the simple fix, would be to use that grader as a backup. We're getting another new one tomorrow. Cause we'll have, with 10 units, we usually,
if we put the
we'll have
50
one part.
If we put the 50,000 in it, what's the trade-in value of it?
Unfortunately, it's not gonna raise it a bunch. That's the bad thing.
How much is
I
it
don't
gonna
know.
lower it if we don't fix
What
it
are we
right?
looking at? Are we looking at
I-
a 70, 80,000 trade-in?
That's a Doug question more, because I don't deal with trade-ins, but I don't know what they give for 148 at the
I
moment.
did see one on the auction just last week that went, I think it was $134,000. Not knowing anything about it, just had 8,900 hours on it, and it was a 07 or 06 on the year. So similar unit, similar hours, but that's just one unit
So like
price.
Brett says, if we just go with the minimum, the trading value would be less if we ever went to look at it, because you
Not
already know.
necessarily. I
You already
mean,
know what's wrong with it, right?
it might run fine too, and even when they're trading it, if it runs fine and the samples looked good.
Have you turned the tire to see if there's any, I mean, if
Noise?
it's smooth, gravity, I mean,
You mean for the spindle?
well, for the differential, you can turn it.
Oh, yeah,
and
I've
turn the
actually put a
tires.
bar in there and
Okay.
wiggled it, and I didn't feel no play. I can get with the mechanic and verify that a little closer. I kinda ran out of time Friday when I wanted to make sure this was all ready for you, so. I know it's a tough decision. And I can't give you that's,
Well-
depending what you're gonna do down the road.
If you can scope it and we can see the ring pinion and everything, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It looks pretty good. And then you can turn the tire on each side, because you have to do each one because they're independent, correct?
Right, unless the
Okay.
diff's lock.
Okay, so if you can turn that tire and there's no drag or any noise, then we're probably fine on that, right? Mm-hmm.
As long
So
as we don't feel any play or see anything that,
unfortunately, I do all my own mechanicing on that excavator.
you're familiar with it somewhat, yeah.
So, anyway, I just, I don't cut corners because it ends up getting me in the end. So I would feel better if you spun the wheels and you look at it inside, and if it doesn't look like it's bad on the inside, then I would be more likely to say yes to this. Without that, I'm more likely to say yes to this, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna put it, when it completely goes out, we're gonna have to do this fix.
Again.
And that fix. So, I don't know. I think.
I'd be happy to get that done today when I get back with the mechanic, so I'm
I
going to be
mean,
back at Cole.
I think before we start going forward, we need to see if we'd have a trade-in value and look at maybe that as well. But I don't know. What do you think, Willie?
Well, I don't know enough about them to say one way or another. I have to just go on what your opinion is.
What do you think, Steve?
I think we should explore the trade-in on it too, and then if we aren't gonna do that, I would go with the repair that's gonna ensure that it's gonna be able to operate.
If you put this in,
Longer
you
than
need to run
500
it for
hours.
a while. Because you'll be, some of the powertrain will be done, not everything. The engine will be the other main powertrain component that,
How many hoses and O-rings? Are we gonna break hoses when we're moving this stuff? Because those hoses, after so long, as you
they're
know.
brittle. There's some that'll have to be replaced because they're brittle.
And that's technically not on here.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I included some. I even probably
Okay.
have a little more than I need, but I'd sooner tell you a little more than come in a little less.
Because even on our lower
If I
end
can.
units, as far as hours used per year, we're still running them 400 to 500 hours.
A year?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on the quote unquote, our backups are running close to 400, give or take a little bit, usually over that. So if it's a temporary fix, that's not gonna go
Right.
very long.
I got to put new rear ends in my Mac because of that one time. And that's not fun.
Yeah, it's just this one that's
Seems to me
so,
if you don't fix it right, you're
It'll
just
get you
asking
down the
for
road.
troubles.
I think it would be good to see it as just a trade-in value and look at it that way and see what we think.
You wanna get that and get back to you at next
What do you
meeting?
think, Willie?
Probably do that.
And-
Like I said, I'd like to go with the two of you, whatever you're thinking.
Well,
I really am.
we could do that and at the next meeting, just go into more detail on the certified rebuild, cause that was
Yeah,
kind of
I
a
know.
separate.
Yeah, I'd like to
all this.
have time
You
to
said
work.
if we go to the 47,000, we're looking in May or April?
Oh, no, that one is 2 to 3
I
weeks.
never
2 to 3
thought
weeks,
about
okay.
Yeah,
availability.
depending how
I
quick
mean,
we can get a turnaround
you
on
sit
the
there and say that
components.
When we get
Trade it
to
in.
May and April, we're gonna be needing these graders
Right, right.
big time.
No, unless we have a parts issue, which I can't guarantee in this day and age. But usually, we pull the tranny, it gets shipped to Topeka or the diff, whatever it is. It gets put on a truck, it's there the next day. If they can get to it within a day or two, they can get it fixed, then it's back to us in a day,
Right.
so. And while that would be gone, we could be working on the spindle or the spiral
see.
drives or whatever it might be.
This one makes more sense because the differential has 8,900 hours on it already. I mean, yeah. So.
Now Doug will be up here tomorrow, so the salesman, and
I
he can.
have to agree with you, cause like I say, I don't know anything about them.
And I have to agree with him, these guys know more about graders than I
Well,
do by a long shot.
definitely.
What's the
And that-
availability of used machinery? I mean, are we,
He actually has said he's traded for some low hour 12 M3s. I don't know any details about it. But that's a Doug question. He just told me Friday when I talked to him
Okay.
that they just got some
So
traded.
what's the horsepower? I mean, we've got a couple underpowered ones.
Them will be gone after
Cad,
tomorrow.
Yeah, we got rid of one of them.
Them were the two that were traded.
What were
120s.
120s, what are these 12 M3s? Are they
12
bigger?
M3 will be, you got 12 M2s, they're just the next generation of a 12 M2. And they're the same size as a 140 like you're buying. I don't know if they're all-wheel drive or not, but very common size for counties.
Well, sometimes you're better to keep upgrading when you can, just for the fact we don't run into this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you guys have done a pretty good job. I got some counties that are even close to where you're at.
Yeah,
And as
it's
they
been
get
about-
higher hours, you got more repairs.
About every 3 to 4 years, we've been rotating in either a newer used one or new. We could keep
That
that
would be
going.
something Doug can talk to him about tomorrow. We'll spend some time and,
Back in the 90s, when I was a commissioner, our graders were old, and we ended up, I think we bought like 4 or 5 of them in about a 3-year period.
and it's hard to get out of that cycle because they're
And I know
They're
we,
jumping in price a lot.
I know
It's just crazy right now.
2 of them we bought, And 2 years later, we traded them in, they give us more on the trade-ins than what we give for them.
Yeah.
'Cause
They
we-
wanted used graders and you got to
They needed
upgrade them.
You know, we were getting government discounts, so.
Well, I think as long as, just coming, I came from a county for 23 and a half years in Hayes. I was shop foreman for them, for 22 of them, 21. So we always had a plan to replace and repair. We always looked at our possible repairs too. And as long as you got a plan to keep upgrading, you're still gonna have repairs, but you're not gonna always have a whole bunch of big repairs. Some of these with 20, 30,000 hours on them, we've got a couple counties like that. That's all they do is repair equipment. They haven't upgraded, now they're really in a deep hole, because it costs millions of dollars to upgrade at that point.
Right.
And counties don't have millions of dollars. It's just the way
Well,
it
I think
is.
if we're gonna keep it, we ought to, personally, we ought to go through it and
Fix
do
it
the
right.
50,000 deal. But if we're not, if we're thinking, look at a trade-in first.
Like the 12M.
We'll see what it
That
can do
might
on
be
the
an
trade.
option if this used one. I'll mention it to Doug today to try to get some information before he comes up tomorrow.
All right.
So, don't know any other, they just told me about him Friday afternoon.
Thank you.
So, appreciate the time, and that's why,
Thank
if
you
you got
for
any
coming
other
up.
questions, that's why I'm here.
And would it be good, okay then, if we come back in 2 weeks and just
Yeah.
do a presentation on the rebuild?
Just some time to tell you what the rebuild program's
Is that
about.
gonna be in your way for 2 weeks?
I don't know. I'm sure the shop will
Well,
cry about it.
if you're going to trade it, would you guys fix it all, or would you just fix what's wrong with it?
They would probably fix it to get at least the differential and the spindles to be able to sell it. They're gonna get back up to selling, so they can sell it to somebody without it having problems. So they would probably for sure pull the diff and do the spindles. So, minimum.
But maybe not the maximum. Huh?
That'd be a
Nobody knows.
decision of the sales department at that point, so.
Okay.
So you all understand, if you went with a diff and a tranny, we could probably get, I'm gonna say a 3-week turnaround time once we really got started on it, roughly.
How long would
But
it
if
be
we
until you
wait
got,
2 weeks now, and then we've got 3 weeks on top of it.
Right.
but how long until you could get to it?
We could get to it right away.
Oh, okay.
That, when I talked about the other, that's if you decided when we're gonna discuss here in 2 weeks, the whole rebuild program.
And that was really
That's a completely
for
different thing.
2 other units that they're close to 12,000 hours right now. There's 2 of them, and that's what we were looking at potentially presenting as a option to do a
Just
certified
didn't wanna
rebuild
get that confused,
on
so
those
you
2
understood.
units. So this is kind of separate from that, but given what's taking place too, it'd be.
It's an unexpected
Is that where it's broken?
repair that you guys weren't
Got
planning
hot,
on.
you can see where it got
Oh,
hot.
okay.
You have them, but you try to plan so you don't have too many of them.
Too many of them.
You can kinda keep the pictures, I printed them off, so.
Well, I, for one, I think probably just come back with us in 2 weeks and see, what you could come up with there.
Okay, good. We'll plan on that then, and have Mark and Doug both here in 2 weeks to do a presentation on the rebuild.
I mean, if they think it's in the way, I'll see if they can't start it and just pull it out. Start it up to get the blade off.
Sorry to put you in that bind, but
You're not, a lot of people do that. I mean, you guys gotta make the right decision.
Okay.
I know, I've been on your side. I understand. So,
All right, well, thank you, Mark.
Yep,
very much.
thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks
Appreciate
for
the
coming
time.
up. I had one other item,
Okay.
and this is a estimate for compensation on easement for the Trout Hill project coming up in the next year. And that's payment for the landowners, property owners that are adjacent or where the bridge is gonna be worked on.
okay.
And it's ground on either side of the bridge, basically, where the contractor is gonna be parking equipment and doing their work, and where we'll be doing dirt work. And I just needed one signature, and I believe Willie would be the one to sign it.
So it's 185 and 295?
Correct, I believe it, right.
You guys okay with me signing this?
Yeah.
We're have a motion on that.
Right.
I'd make a motion that we sign the, estimate of joint just compensation.
Second.
Okay, it's been first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
You wanna hang on to these, Brett? Or I can keep them in the office?
No, thanks, I can put them up on my wall.
Yeah.
Leslie might win them.
I'll hang on to them.
Just get them in canvas, then, yeah.
Yeah.
Hope I signed it in the right
Oh.
place.
There's two of them there.
One for each. I'm afraid I'd have nightmares if I had those pictures, so.
Okay. All right, thanks, Willie.
Thank you.
That's all I had today. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Kelly, are you ready?
Okay.
Hello.
I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk with you guys today about an issue and a situation that happened on Thursday, on January 27th. I just am wanting you guys to be aware of the situation, but I also am bringing forth a hopeful solution. That's kind of how I operate anyways. I own and operate a title company over in Bird City, and in doing so, I do a lot of work up here at the courthouse and the Register of Deeds office and other ones. But I continue to have issues and problems in there, and with that, on the 27th, I was given a packet of documents when I came in to do a search. And that packet was documents that were from January 14th and 18th. Again, that was the 27th. I had filed the same amount of documents on the 14th as I did here, the same amount of documents in Sherman County, same day. And I received all of those documents back a week later. That's usually normal. Most companies know that. It's not, you usually get your documents back within a week. That's not a problem. When they were handed to me, I was shocked because I knew what they were, and I just had said, I thought those were in the mail. I was expecting those to be in the mail because it's been so long. And she stated, well, it was too heavy. The packet was, the mailing envelope was going to be too heavy to mail. I didn't know that there was certain criteria for that now, so I said, okay, if that's the case, can you please either call me or email me and let me know when those documents are done and ready, so then I can either pick them up or I can have somebody else pick them up. And then she stated, well, Kelly, I don't have to, there's no statute that says I have to have them back to you at a certain time. It says I have to mail them, but I do not have to, there's no statute that says I have to have them back to you within a certain amount of time. As a person that runs a business and wants to run it good, I didn't know what else to do. I can't run a good business when I know my documents are sitting up here and I'm expecting them to be mailed. Most of the time they're usually mailed. And I know always at the end of the year, things get busy anyways, and things happen. I know when they get mailed, it's going to be a little longer. I understand that. But I had already had customers inquiring about these documents, and I just kept saying, listen, they're probably in the mail. I'm still waiting to get them. I have not received them back yet. There was a holiday in there as well, and so, I tried to remedy the situation. And again, I had assumed they were in the mail. I'd never been up here to pick them up any other time before. So I didn't know what else to do. I'm at that point where, again, if I'm gonna run a business and run it well, if that's how it's gonna be handled here in Cheyenne County, I won't do my business. I can't do my business that way. I have been in business since 2016. I feel like it's ran really good. But I want to provide good customer service as well. So my solution to the problem would be, she does like to have statutes and policies and stuff. I would suggest that you put in place a policy that requires that, I would say, a maximum of after 3 days from the date of recording, that those documents be back in the mail to those persons. However it needs to be done, but that's your maximum amount of time. You've got 3 days. You've already got it done and recorded. I realize there's other work and stuff in place, but that would give that person three days to at least get those documents done and then get them back in the mail. I have policies and procedures in place as well, that I have a timeline that I have to have stuff back to my customers back to. I can't do that if I know my documents are sitting up here and I can't do a good job. That's gonna be my recommendation. I don't know if you can or
Okay.
can't, I don't know.
Kelly, in regards to the situation as you're talking about, the Register of Deeds is an elected official. And so when it comes to elected officials, they have certain autonomy in regards to how their offices are run. When you're dealing with elected officials, if there is any sort of complaint or concern in regards to that elected official's office, you have to fall back on statute in regards to if they are or are not doing their job in accordance with the legal duties that have been placed upon them through the statutes.
Correct.
When it comes to the Register of Deeds office, everything that is brought in there is time sensitive, correct?
Correct, yeah.
And so when it comes in, everything is dated and timed, and then those documents are worked as they come in,
Right.
correct?
Right.
So if an oil and gas company comes in with a 500 legal description document, that's going to kind of push back the documents being worked through,
I
right?
understand that.
Because of the time that it takes to work that document, because you have to work them in order, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. And so when it comes to, like your situation where you had filed on the, what'd you say, the 13th and the 18th?
The 14th and the
14th,
18th.
14th and the 18th, and there was a holiday in there. In working through all of the documents that were there, I mean, is it truly unreasonable in regards to the time frame?
I guess,
mean, is it because you become accustomed to a certain way of things being done?
no, I guess my other thing is if knowing it was gonna just be sitting there, just call me and I'll pick him up. Like, I have no problem. That was my understanding I figured you were gonna be coming back in here.
Okay.
So I
And so if the
guess
doc-
I don't know if one day it's gonna be this way and then the next day it's this way. I don't know. And
Well, it
so-
seems to me that when it comes to this type of situation, because you are dealing with an elected official, the commissioners really have no authority or power in regards to the policies and procedures unless there is a specific statute that is being violated, okay? So this is more of a communication issue between you and the Register of Deeds. However, given the fact that, there could have been a document that came in that had numerous legal descriptions on it that pushed it back. If the document were done, let's say on Monday, and I mean, how often are you in the Register of Deeds office?
I come in very little anymore.
Very little?
I try
So
not to.
did you take any sort of initiative to call and say, hey, are these documents done?
No, because I don't want to be that person that is also, are you done with them yet? Like,
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
at that point. There have been times I have emailed and said, hey, did you get this in the mail? And yep, I put it in the mail.
Okay.
So, I
So-
mean, there have been other times I had. But I guess, yeah.
Okay, well, like I said, I mean, this is more of a communication, because I don't think that that Jeannie has ever refused to give you a document back, right?
No,
Okay, then that would be something that the commissioners could act on, if there was a refusal to return the original documents. That is something that they could act on, but given the fact that there is no limitation, did the research, because there is no limitation in regards to the documents actually getting back. You know, they do them as timely as they can because they do have to work through. And unless you can show that there was a willful neglect in processing those documents, then it's gonna be as they are done. Now, in regards to the mailing versus holding and such, that's a conversation that you're gonna need to have with the Register of Deeds to get that clarified. And if you're wanting it one way or the other, then be that as it may. Okay?
Sorry we can't be of more help there, but
Okay, thanks. Appreciate it.
okay. That's all we got?
Yep. So, anything else?
I guess that's all we got.
I don't think I have anything.
Motion to,
I move we adjourn.
I second it.
first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed to adjourn?